Just watched a show on Greece, ancient Greece, and now I think they're in Italy. So, making some coffee. I've been posting a lot on Instagram, and just obviously there's been not only our YouTubers blogging and going live and tons of content on the Epstein files, and it sort of opened up a lot of other content about just all the celebrities and just weird pictures and videos from back in like the 90s and the early 2000s, where people were kind of coming out with this, these wealthy elites are, eating people and predatory, manipulative behavior in the industry, and there was a lot of whistleblowers, but everybody's like kind of like, oh, maybe they're crazy. And now that we have the Epstein files, legitimate, government documented files, everybo's been kind of going back to the stuff that everybody kind of brushed off as crazy like 20 years ago. So there's just a lot of content coming out right now. I just made some coffee. So I've been just kind of just dabbling, basically remixing a lot of reels. So somebody will, put out their work and I kind of remix it and just add, one or two little comments. So, yeah, let's get some of this non-dairy creamer up in here. Y'all gonna make me lose my mind up in here, up in here. Y'all gonna make me lose my mind up in here, up in here. That's the way. I just shared this reel. You guys remember, Bruce Campbell movies, Evil Dead, Army of Darkness. Well, I grew up in a horror household, a Howard household. I grew up in a Howard household, a horror household. Yeah, my stepdad was really into horror. I mean, we had movie props and just really demented stuff around our apartment. So there's a lot of like horror and metal. He was really into metal and other kinds of music too. But back in the mid '90s, metal was really huge. Grunge was coming out, so I mean we listened to like Rob Zombie, Stone Temple Pilots. We listened to like a lot of grunge too. It was White Zombie. And I was really into like Offspring and punk rock stuff too. But anyways, my stepdad, grew up in Texas, and in Texas back in the late '80s, it was kind of like you were either into like metal or punk rock or new wave. Everything was very sectioned off to genres and stuff. So he was a metalhead, and so yeah, we had huge columns in our apartment, and we had actual zombies that were used in real horror movies. Zombies with no arms or legs, and he'd put like wigs on them. Just really bizarre stuff. And my stepdad, obviously, he played guitar, and was an amazing, really good guitar player. He would win, awards at guitar offs. Back in the '90s, they'd have battling guitar solos and stuff at Guitar Center, and I think one time he won like second place out of hundreds of guitar players. So he's a really good guitar player, and he might have won first place. I forget exactly, but he was one of the winners. I forget exactly what place, but and he would write novels, and he would paint, just very artistic, like very artistic Um, and it's kind of weird. Sometimes it's like when my stepdad was raising me in the 90s. I mean, he was so much younger than I am now. I think he was in his late 20s. So sometimes I think about, man, imagine like raising a kid in your late 20s. That just seems so weird. But it happens. I mean, people do it. So I got to, this coffee's to the brim. I'm going to heat this up. So yeah, my stepdad was like a huge influence of musically, absolutely. Not only did he buy me my first guitar, it was a mini Fender Squier, just a baby guitar, and then I upgraded to an adult size Fender when I was 12, a red and white one. So not only did he, buy me my first guitars, he taught me musical scales and how to play chords and how to play, whatever songs. If there's a song I heard on the radio that I liked a lot, he would figure it out in 5 minutes. Didn't matter what song it was. He'd be able just to listen to it and figure it out. And then he would teach me how to play. So he'd teach me Nirvana songs, Offspring, Bush. He was a metalhead guitar player, so he would. I'd be like, oh, I want to learn this song. It's so cool, and he'd be like, that's like really some basic ass easy shit, to figure out how to play a lot of grunge music in the 90s, was very elementary, very simple compared to the stuff he was playing, which was really like technical metal. So he would be able to figure out any song pretty quickly. And now that I'm older, I'm like, yeah, he's right. A lot of this stuff's just 3-chord grunge music. So my stepdad taught me how to play chess. He taught me how to play Texas Hold'em. He was a really good chess player. So just taught me, when I say he raised me, he literally raised me in the crafts, music, chess, philosophy, history. And I was fortunate because I was able to watch a lot of super demented ass horror movies as a 9-year-old where, other kids, I'd go to school and be like, oh, we watched, Evil Dead 2 last night. And my friends were like, oh man, I wish my dad would let me watch that stuff. So I wasn't thinking of going on here and talking about my stepdad. I'll have to rewatch this live and see how that snaked to that topic. But yeah, he was just, my stepdad was really intellectual, and there's more to that story, but what else was I going to say with that? And he was in a band, he was in a band in the 90s, and a 3-piece, really, like everybody in that band, the bass player was crazy good. The bass player was crazy good. Like almost unhumanly good at bass. And the drummer was very, very good. Who's still a family friend to this day. He's actually the drum tech for, is it Offspring? It's not Offspring. Social Distortion, yeah. So my dad's drummer in the 90s is the main drum tech for Social Distortion and did a lot of their like setting up, kind of behind the scenes music stuff, and he won, a Grammy for just for that. I don't think he ever played on any of it, but he was just really, he would tour with Social Distortion and would set up the drums and everything. So he's a Jewish man who owned a lot of rehearsal studios in Hollywood, which was one of my first jobs. And I met a lot of people in the industry when I was 17, 18 years old in Hollywood, driving my old pickup truck to Hollywood and working every day. Met Powder, the band Powder. Would regularly talk to Phil a couple times a week. Would almost say he was like a buddy of mine. Just the Colt practice there. Just a lot of like LA bands that were, kind of pretty big. Would rent out. Even Ron Jeremy would rent out, rims from us and put a little paper up on the window. Um, and Yeah, that was a lot of characters coming in there. It kind of reminded me of when I worked the smoke shop in Portland. There's just such just a range, a collage of different characters, just so many different types of people coming in. That's kind of how it was at the rehearsal studio that I worked at. It was just, you would have just completely different types of musicians coming in. I mean, different ages, different genres, people that were, multimillionaires that were, kind of like C-list celebrities, to people that were, trying to sell me artwork out of the back of their car so they could, rent a place to jam for a few hours. It's just all different types of people at the studio. So my phone's turned around. Okay, let me flip my phone around. Let me flip it. Let me flip my phone around. That way I can see if anybody comments. So jumping into truther stuff is a total different topic from, music influences growing up, working at a rehearsal studio. Kind of, I guess that was a little background. Born and raised in Southern California. So because I just went so heavily into my musical background and working in Hollywood and stuff, I don't really feel like tapping fully into conspiracy topics. But I gotta talk about some stuff. I mean, that's literally why I came live. I even wrote down some topics. On my second notebook that I've been filling out. Second notebook. Notebook number 2. I had a notebook that I was going off last year on Instagram. Instagram doesn't let me go live anymore. But I have more than 1,000 followers, so it's not that. But I was going the fuck off on Instagrams, like Bible studies, crying, fucking talking about fake space travel, just going off on shit. But really, it's not really fake space travel, it's staged. It's speculative science based upon an operative art. So if you want to be a fan of science, go for it. Don't be a wet blanket. If people want to believe and practice speculative science, then let them. I know Professor Dave and Jay Dyer were kind of getting into it about, creation versus, evolution. And I'm leaning towards creation, not just because not just for like the psychological effect it has on people, creation versus evolution. It's just evolution is kind of retarded. I mean, if you think about it, it's almost like I feel like a lot of scientism is it's kind of a long, dramatic game of Dungeons and Dragons that became basically political and our curriculum for education. Um, I mean, I even went to a private Christian school. I went to a private Lutheran Christian school that was, really nice. And we even had space class. We learned about space for an entire hour every day, like taking tests, like how big is Jupiter and stuff. It just went on and on and on. And I remember space. I liked space class actually. When I was a kid, that was like space and history were my favorite topics. And space class though it was I noticed it was so much different. All the other classes we went to, like math and history, it just had this normal feeling. And then when I went into space class, it was weird, Not only the stuff we were learning, but the room was like pitch black and it had all these like planets. It was just a weird, weird room. And I actually excelled in space class. I don't think it was called space class, but I did pretty well in that class actually. But it was, now that I look back at it, it was speculative science. But the way they were teaching it was, like Saturn is this big. They weren't telling the kids that this is research, this is theory, this is they weren't really presenting um, all of that as theory, which technically it is because they keep finding out like, oh well, the globe is actually like shaped like an egg, and then it's the moon is in this atmosphere, and then it's now we think the moon is actually outside of the whatever it's called, so I mean they keep changing their shit up because they don't know basically. But people that are diehard fans of this stuff, I mean, they're kind of like stuck in this permanent board game, kind of. And it always goes down to name calling. But yeah, I mean, Professor Dave, he's he's a smart dude and he's got a lot of content and stuff. And I'm not saying he's not a professor, and I'm not dogging on his credentials or anything, but I mean, it always resorts to like a lot of name calling, which I do that also. But eventually you talk to these people, they just get so upset. They're just like, you're a fucking dumbass, So it just shows that it's kind of board game demeanor, that it gets like that. I mean, you feel like you're arguing at a Dungeons and Dragons or like some fantasy tournament or something, and the way they get worked up, because it's not really grounded in spirit and truth. It's speculation and theory. So, anyways, I can't believe I spelt this word sacrifice wrong. Okay, let's see. I don't know why I put an R there. I cover it with the C. So the topics today, I've already kind of gotten into one of the topics, but it's alternate reality. I believe, we are if you're an American, especially, and all around the world. I'm going to try to make this quick because I don't really feel like getting into this for too long, but I mean, a lot of this stuff, people are like, dude, what are you talking about? Alternate reality, man. All this stuff's been proven, dude. This is how we're advancing. We're advancing in what we know about the world. And what do you mean alternate reality? But a lot of this stuff, it's like, it's in the words. I mean, have you ever heard the term American dream? Like you're living the American dream. It's because it's not real. So they've created an alternate reality, aka an American dream. Okay, you could call it an agenda, a secular agenda, humanism. I don't really get into politics. I think the whole left, right, Democratic, Republican, it's all the same shit. I mean, two wings, right wing, left wing, same bird. So, but the alternate reality, the TV when we grew up, commercials would say return to your regular programming. So we are, we have been programmed. They've created an alternate reality that has sort of etched out creation. Um, Now, to play the devil's advocate, I mean, creation sounds kind of, I don't want to say, I was going to say retarded. It doesn't, it just seems really far fetched, also. So, to me, evolution doesn't make sense at all, but also, creation, everything being created in 7 days. I believe in creation, and sure, I believe everything was created in 7 days. That's what I believe. But I could see how other people would think that is crazy. I'm not going to hate on somebody that thinks the whole world and universe was created in 7 days. Because that seems, honestly, to me, that doesn't seem as far-fetched as the Big Bang Theory and evolution. I think that is even more retarded. But let's just keep it to what we know. So the alternate reality, and there's a lot of psychology. People are like, what? It's not, is the world flat? It's not, how much space travel are they staging? It's not really a question of if or what they're doing, but it's why. It's a psychological effect it has on people, because if people think there's this giant universe out there that we could travel and explore, and there's all these planets, and we could pass the firmament, and there's a universe up there and everything, and then their attention focus isn't on how the government is taking advantage. The government is taking advantage of people, harassing people, manipulating people, taxing people. We're taxed more than the slaves were taxed in Egypt. The countless staged events, like 9/11 staged. Obviously, those buildings were blown up. CGI. That's just proven. These planes are made out of plastic. They're hollow. They wouldn't even break through the first wall of the building, let alone go through the whole thing. It's literally impossible, and that's what the video showed, because it's CGI. And when the screen was panned out, you didn't see any planes coming up, and all of a sudden when they zoomed in, it just comes out of nowhere. And of course, there's going to be, just like how people argue about the moon landing and stuff, they're going to be like, have 1,000, oh, this, oh, but this, did you think of it like this? That shit, that building was blown up. That was maybe a sacrifice, a satanic sacrifice, especially because it landed on the numbers 9/11, 9 being a huge number in the occult, and 11 also. And I could go into 9 and 11 like crazy, and it's funny because that's our police code, 9 and 11. I mean, the fact that they took out a giant insurance claim in case of a terrorist attack a few weeks before these buildings were blown up. So it's, people are like, oh, it's the money. It's because they wanted to start a war in the Middle East. It's like, yeah, they made a lot of money. Yeah, they used that to back a war. But this is also a satanic agenda, people. This is falling on specific numbers. This is human sacrifice. This is more than just power moves and cash grabs. It's more than that. So let's see. I'm gonna switch it up and go to the couch here. Turn down the TV. Heat up my coffee. So yeah, I mean, in a way, I'm a fan also of science fiction. I think everybody kind of is. I mean, Star Wars, stuff like that, right? I mean, doesn't everybody kind of like that? But again, just like how I said earlier, just how it's the American dream. I call it the alternate reality. They've created another reality for us to live in. where we're codependent on the state. The government thinks we're stupid and we can't take care of ourselves, and they want to, just like how an organized crime criminal organization works, they want to create problems. They're the solution. We have to pay them. We're punished. We're ostracized if we go against. They want to mediate, we can't just live off the land. Everything's free. I mean, we could all build houses. We could eat off the land. People have been doing that for a long ass time. So this whole idea of a techie government that micromanages people is actually in its baby stages. I mean, all this technology has just been a recent occurrence in the last 80 to 90 years. So this high-tech govy that's micromanaging our lives, it's not like they've been doing it for thousands of years. They're still basically trial and error figuring out how to fuck us up, basically, and make us sick. And they've been putting processed sugar, which is behind every major ailment. I've gone live on this. I mean, they've been putting this processed sugar in everything. I just heard my phone go off. I don't know what, it's probably on Instagram or something. I mean, they clearly have been weakening us. Absolutely. So the thing about these hardcore secular people that honest to God believe in space travel and honest to God don't believe in anything the Bible has to say, that they're sort of anarchist, not only against the government but also against religion. These people, I mean, I'm not going to say it's hard to talk to them, but I mean, they really are of a worldly spirit. And I know people are going to be like, what does that mean, a worldly spirit? People that aren't Christian wouldn't understand that. And then even people that were Christians at one time in their life, they know what that means. So, hold on, it's pretty dark in here. I'm going to turn on the light. Could you imagine if I made my lives into Spotify podcasts? just give up on music. No, start doing music and this. So I don't know, like, as far as saying there's bloodlines from like thousands of years ago that has been ruling Earth, I'm not so sure about that. I'm not sure I'm not sure it's the Jews, that used to be the whatever, how they're saying the Jews are from this certain family, this certain bloodline family that's been, praying and ruling people and making people's lives difficult for thousands of years. I'm not really so sure about that. To connect all the ruling empires from like England, Russia, and Italy, that they're all part of the same bloodline, it's like it's a little much. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying there's not this bloodline. Whatever, the Council of 13 is this bloodline from ancient Egypt, and they've, and I'm not saying it's not, but it seems a little much, to be honest, because I think just to stay on topic with the government. So the government, again, like I said, they're still learning too. And a lot of the staged events, that they do, um, obviously a lot of these shootings are staged. They have crisis actors. They even admit they have crisis actors. I mean, you could become a crisis actor. It's a job, just how they pay protesters to protest. That being a crisis actor is a real job. A lot of these events are staged. I had a buddy in Portland that was actually a crisis actor, and he would go on government bases, and he also worked at the smoke shop I worked at, and he would come and he'd have all these like wounds on his face that looked really real, and they weren't. So being a crisis actor is a real job. Now, a lot of times they, a lot of times they stage these events because they're deterrents from real life maniacs. So there might be some maniacs that want to attack a certain type of people or carry out some crazy ass crimes. So they stage these events because then the real psychos that are actually wanting to do stuff are like, oh wow, this just happened. It already happened. So that it kind of holds them off. And then if people do die from these staged events, then it would fall under the like sacrifices. Uh, Satanists are huge into sacrifices and ritual abuse, and everybody lately has been trying to figure out like what the Satanists are doing in their secret meetings and stuff. But really, I think all these satanic rituals are public. I think it's all the public stuff, like the 9/11, the Twin Towers. I think, and when they off certain celebrities and musicians, when they whack these people and they make it look like, a car accident, or they killed themselves, they jumped off a building or whatever. I mean, that's all public. So you guys are like super obsessed with what are these people doing? It's everything they're doing is right in the public. And they have the media to create the narrative. Because the news is demonic. I mean, if you're a Christian, I mean, any mainstream news, I haven't watched the news in a while, but when I watched the news 15, 20 years ago in California, I mean, just hearing these newscasters speak, it's almost like a demonic attack. I mean, just the way they speak with such force, it's spell casting, the newscasters. They're spell casting, just like movies and music, and just like speculative science. It's all spell casting to basically take away your God consciousness. So God gave you a spirit of power, not fear, and they want you to live in a spirit of fear. And they've created a police state. They've created fake news. They've created processed sugar, pharmaceuticals. They want everybody against each other. They're literally working the opposite of how Christ wants everybody on earth. Christ came to show us the way, and the newscasting, spellcasting, the alternate reality, pseudoscience. They've created an alternate reality. They're not trying to usher out Christianity. They already did, because the pseudoscience is their response to Christianity, because they don't think Christianity is real. So they're like, you're going to make up a bunch of shit about Hebrew folklore and believe it. We're going to make up a bunch of shit about pseudoscience and have everybody believe our made up shit versus your made up shit. See, like these occultics, the Kabbalah occultics, like it's funny when you hear Christians like pray for the government and these liberals that are very worldly, and it's like, it's pointless to pray for these people. These people are so brainwashed with a Luciferian spirit that they're not, if anything, everything you do, they're going to continue to twist it to their agenda. So the way you fight this, and I didn't even get into COVID. I mean, that was an experiment also. and people are still getting very sick and dying from those shots continually every day. People have all these health issues. Though, instead of praying for these people and acting like you're some self-righteous person that like you could pray for the world and everything, and the whole alternate reality is going to discontinue. It says in the Bible that God has allowed the deception of the new age. So God has green lighted this deception. God has green lighted this deception for this alternate reality we live in now. So stop trying to pray against it. It's in its full course. It's the full swing of the agenda started in 1985, and that's the same year we started allowing converts. It was our response to the satanic Luciferian agenda that the government is fully involved in. And so our response as an older organization and a more powerful organization, a more powerful order, which is the Eastern Orthodox Church, we've been around for 2,000 years. So we're about 1,700 years older and 17 times more powerful than the United States government. And that's just, and thank God that there's another way from this alternate reality. So we started to allow people, converts, whether they're secular or from a heretical or schismatic church, we allow them in the Antiochian Orthodox Church. Because before 1985, we didn't really want converts or Americans in the church, but we had a meeting and we decided to allow non-Christians to become Christians in 1985, real Christians, that receive the sacraments, the faith of the apostles, because the apostles were Orthodox Christian. The people in the New Testament that all Christians read, those were all letters from Orthodox Christians to Orthodox Christians. They were all making the sign of the cross. They were all praying to the Lady Theotokos, which is the mother of the new race. They were all practicing Orthodox Christians. And the narrative, which is a faulty narrative, is that early Christians were like freestyle Christians and there was no religion and they were just, wandering the land, in the Holy Spirit, just like some hippies walking around in robes and shit, like white robes. They were actually real people that had real jobs and they lived in these real countries 2,000 years ago, 1,900 years ago. And they were Orthodox Christians. And the creed developed, the creed wasn't formed entirely, but the creed was like a small version of the creed and they kept adding to it. They assembled the letters of the New Testament and they assembled the New Testament Bible 300 years after the resurrection of Christ, meaning the church was in its liturgical calendar, the church was functioning, was receiving communion, was a body of Christ for 300 years in an Eastern Orthodox Christian way for 300 years before the New Testament ever even was around. And you have all these non-denominational Protestant Christians that are like convinced that the early church was like them and like the Catholic and Orthodox faith somehow in a corrupt way kind of slivered into and built this corrupt religious church like hundreds of years later, because that's what they're taught. And because that's what I was taught growing up. And, after going to Lutheran, which Lutheran is very similar to Catholic. I didn't know that till I got older, but the Lutheran church is very similar to the Catholic church. But, starting out at the Lutheran church and then becoming, going to non-denominational churches like Calvary Chapel and stuff. They taught us, that the early Christians were, like they were, and religion formed way later, which is not the truth. There was always one church. There's one Eastern Orthodox Church, and then the Catholics broke off from them 1,000 years later, and then it was the Protestant Reformation. So these like freestyle, I always say they like meet up, they do Bible bouncing, they Bible bounce, they do worship and stuff like the on fire Holy Spirit churches. I'm not saying they're bad or anything, and they do have a lot of faith and they are encouraging and everything, but it's like that type of Christianity is new. That's like in the last 100 years, like very, very new. So, so really, the truth hurts, and a lot of people are converting to Orthodoxy in America. And it's not a specific church. It's not just like the Greek or the Antiochian church or the ROC. It's not, it's just, there's a church, it's called the Orthodox Church. It's been around for 2,000 years, and people are realizing that it's been hidden from them because the Orthodox Church doesn't fit into this alternate reality that America has caught everybody in. It's like this, it's this negative narrative. They've made themselves like there's some benevolent force ready to free the world, with force of military action. That's how they've created this narrative for Americans. Like, hey, I'm the government. We're going to free the world and make sure the world's free. And if we have to use military force, we're going to do it. When in actuality, they're going around and they're the largest criminal syndicate in the entire world. And they've been, basically committing, crime, hostile takeovers, kidnapping, running drugs, sex trafficking. They're carrying out their satanic operations under the cloak or the mask of that they're the free world, when really it's just, if you mean the satanic world, and it's clearly their agenda satanic when they're obviously spearheading, teaching about LGBT, speculative science, ushering out any kind of Christianity, making people dependent on their philosophical bullshit. Everything in the public school system is so secular, and even the public school system itself is part of the agenda. They want people dependent on their ideology, and the government. The government is in a dangerous place right now because they think they've replaced God in the church. And if you think that, you're going fucking down, and you know it. And so it's like the amount of bullshit they've been doing in the last 20 years, it's because they know they're probably at the end of the road. And so they're coming up with all these staged events, all these dramas, how much confusion and fear, how much hardships can we put on people, how much can we fuck with people, basically, seems like has been their main goal, because I don't think their agenda really worked. I think they were expecting a lot more people to die from COVID. And it was just like a couple 100,000 people got sick and maybe tens of thousands of people got killed. I think they were expecting millions and millions of people. And see, these satanic people, they want the world just to have, maybe 500,000 people where everyone's living this like pseudo-science, satanic, tech, transhumanism life. Like they have this warped reality, like they're going to save mankind through their science and their tech and everything, when really science is just a better way to it should just be a better way to make things more efficient, for mankind, not to destroy mankind. You shouldn't use tech to destroy mankind and make it more satanic. You should be using technology and science to better mankind, because there's plenty of resources out there. There's hundreds of thousands of forests. There's plenty of wood. you could plant as much vegetables as you want. I mean, there's tons of resources that the population could triple, quadruple the population, and there would still be plenty of resources for everyone to be well. But these satanic elites, I mean, they're convinced that they're going to save the world through, in their mindset, death and destruction equals rebirth, and if they could destroy everything, it's going to purify everyone. They're just fucking crazy. They're crazy people that are running this world. And I'm not the first guy who's said all this. I mean, there's been a lot of people who's been, talking about, thanks for the thumbs up, who's been talking about these lunatics. We went into a lot of topics, alternate reality, satanic sacrifices, numerology. We just went into a bunch of stuff, depopulation. We even say it, the American dream. Return to your regular programming. Newscasters, spellcasting. I mean, all of this stuff. And if you want to be a fan of speculative science and stuff, that's fine. That's totally okay, because I am also. I'm a fan of speculative science, but we have to understand the boundaries between an enforced alternate reality. There's a difference between, having fun with science fiction versus putting refined processed sugar in everything to weaken everybody, because it's all marketing and packaging. When you go down the aisles in the grocery store, it's all the same poison with just a different package and a different label shaped in a different way, kind of like Taco Bell. Kind of like Taco Bell food. So again, all this tech is new. I mean, we went from horse and wagon. We went from horse and wagon to jet propulsion and fiber optics in like 30 years. We discovered something. We connected to something. My godfather says, like, a lot of the weapons and stuff that we've come across in the last 56 years, it's like demon tech. So whatever, I don't care how you explain it, our technology has skyrocketed in the last 60 and 70 years, because basically, we had such a long amount of history, which is, I mean, yeah, there was inventions and things, styles changed, and people were traveling on sea, and things evolved and developed. But I mean, more or less, everything was kind of, we all had the same capabilities for a long amount of time in the history. And then all of a sudden, almost overnight, from like the 1920s, it's horse and wagon. And then all of a sudden in the 70s, 30, 40 years later, it's jet propulsion. We're messing around with satellites. We're trying to get as far up as we can. Computers come out, social media, cell phones, fiber optics. I mean, we basically skyrocketed in technology, and people are taking advantage of people with this technology, like Bill Gates, the pharmaceutical industry, and they're basically paying these states to bully people with the police force, and to strong arm people, which they can, because people are now dependent on the government for electricity, food, for like the comfortable life. And if you don't play along with this alternate reality, you can't have the comfortable life, kind of thing. So they're basically, the government's acting like fucking assholes. To speak in plain English, not to get too fancy on you, they're acting like fucking kids too. They're acting like immature fucking assholes, and they're fucking with people. And my answer to that is stop giving them fucking money. Wake up from this mid-90s bullshit. People in the 90s thought the government could do no evil. They're the good guys trying to protect us from the terrorists when they're actually the terrorists. Stop giving them money. Stop believing that the people in Israel are actually the lineage of King David. King David, they're not even real Hebrew people. They're not the lineage of King David. Zionism, the church has rebuked Zionism for decades. And you have all these Protestants. It's funny, it's always the Protestant Christians in America that are convinced that the people over there are like the grandkids of King David, and we have to help them somehow. When in reality, they're manipulating and taxing us, and they're working with fraternal orders. Masonry is where basically the bitches of Israel's bitches are Freemasons, and they have to, and they shame them. You know, they make their bitches do all sorts of disgusting sexual things. The Freemasonry is obviously a homosexual cult. The whole seek the light that's the homo light. I call it, so Freemasons are it's soft occultism. It's low level homosexual soft occultism. And not every Freemason is pro Zion. I've met Masons that are absolutely anti-Israel and also flat earthers, and know that NASA is evil and stuff. But when you become a Mason, you have to basically take an oath that you will be obedient to the federal government. Basically, when you become a Mason, the lodge and the federal government is now your God above church, truth, Christianity, family, and a lot of these fraternal organizations are like that. I mean, even the Knights of Columbus, they are a Catholic fraternity, but they make them sign an oath saying, the government is your daddy, basically. You're a bitch and the government's your daddy. Same with the Masoneries, you're a bitch and Israel's your daddy. And so it kind of, when you have people in powerful positions that are part of these occultic fraternities that are draining your energy through their alternate reality, this is why people are miserable. If you read Proverbs, it's actually written by King David, the father of King Solomon, which is the wisest man that probably ever lived. If you actually read Proverbs, it says that the people are miserable when the leadership's bad. And the leadership in this country, it's not just bad, it's absurd. It's horrible leadership. It couldn't get worse. It's so bad that it's like everyone's pretty sure they're fucking with us. It's not just like, oh, they made a mistake here or there. It's like they're actively fucking with us in such an advanced way. It almost seems like supernatural. Like they're getting their ideas from like a demonic source. The government's fucking with us more than an average man would ever conjure up on his own. So they're not just fucking with us, they're part of this Kabbalah cult, and they're getting a demonic charge fucking with us. And these are the people in our fucking law enforcement agencies, the FBI. These people, yeah, I said it, the FBI, law enforcement, CIA. These people are Freemasons, and they're homosexual, and they're using, their whole thing is they worship knowledge. So, Freemasons are all about, their whole thing is about knowledge and understanding. Like, they don't worship in spirit and truth. They want to understand, oh, well, how can we compare the Father, Son, Holy Spirit to all these other religions? Look, the Father means this and this religion and this religion and this religion. And you see the three concept is as a universal thing. They're always trying to fucking understand shit. Freemasons are obsessed with understanding things, and instead of worshiping in spirit and truth. It's like you could understand everything, but just like the Bible says, if you don't have love and compassion, just like how our government doesn't have love, compassion, and basic reason, then what's the fucking point? It's like, yeah, you've got all your numbers out there. You created a building and the stairs are 33 and everything's measured to this esoteric thing that aligns with the fucking universe, and the astrology is all connected with the energy charge, and the tectonic plates are lined up, and we got everyone charged up on all this demonic energy, and like, yeah, you congratulations, but the bottom line is you guys suck at being a fucking government because our infrastructure is falling apart. So it's like, yeah, you've carried out all your satanic rituals, but the roads are falling apart, the infrastructure's falling apart. People don't have money to heat their homes. They're deciding whether to heat their homes or eat food that week, the poison food. So it's like, but yet there's billions of dollars for Israeli wars. Israel, the 51st state of America. So it's like, you guys got your fucking priorities so fucking far up your ass, it's coming out of your fucking eyeballs with all your fucking gay shit. And I think the whole LGBT thing kind of died out. I mean, nobody fell for that. I mean, even Satanists are against that, I mean, COVID failed. You guys are failures. COVID failed, LGBT failed, fake space travel, speculative science failed. Everything you're doing is failing because it's evil. And people are soft, but they're not that dumb. They're not that stupid. And now that you've exhausted your resources, anything that people see on the news, nobody fucking believes anything anymore. So it's basically done. The government should step down, absolutely. Which would bring another country in to invade us. They probably already made a deal with China or some other country, but yeah, the whole founding father things, I mean, I'm not so sure about that either. The problem with America is they thought they could have this idealistic utopia on Earth through logic and reasoning and masonry, basically. But you guys have a blind spot, and that's, you try to usher out the only true church and the only true reason. And there's actually more knowledge and wisdom and intelligence. There's more of that in the Eastern Orthodox Church anyways, because everything came from us anyways. So all the Holy Fathers, they were all part of schismatic, heretical churches. So they were I'm not going to say wrong, but they were incomplete from the beginning. So they're coming from all these heretical, schismatic organizations trying to create this perfect place for the world. And once all that failed, you had all the clowns come into office, and you had all the agendas. Basically, the Satanism, high order Satanism, infiltrated the government like in the 60s. Obviously. So it's, people are like, you don't like the country, leave. It's not even America anymore. It's just has the title or the name America, but it's so far from how the United States should be. It's beyond repair, I think. The whole thing started off on bad foundation. The whole like slaughtering, an entire civilization of people that have lived here for so long. It's fucked from the beginning. It's fucked from the beginning, and I'm saying stop giving your tax money. Stop paying taxes. Stop giving these people money. Discontinue your affiliation with government workers. And they're always going to be like, well, there's people that have families. I don't give a fuck. I got a fucking family. I'm not paying for your fucking satanic elitism lifestyles. You know, oh, the road workers, they're good, hardworking road workers. We pay them 22 an hour. And then we take 33% of it so we could pay for Israel's bombs so they could blow up innocent Middle Eastern people. You know, I'm not paying for it. I'm not supporting this government anymore. And I'm not acknowledging people that work for the government. And it's embarrassing. And I've done a lot of traveling. And when you tell people you're American, it's like a shameful moment. And stop being so fucking arrogant. I'm American. I'm American. You know, who gives a shit? You know, this is a new country. This is a baby country. There's countries that's been around for thousands of years out there. Okay? And this country is gone unless it, the only way this country could make it is if it basically becomes an Eastern Orthodox country. It's true. It's just the truth. Okay? Because the leadership now is weakening the people, and in the Eastern Orthodox Church it strengthens people. Okay, so it's just, you know, have you ever heard that saying, it is what it is? Well, in this situation, it is what it is. You know, the Eastern Orthodox Church strength, look at Russia. Fuck, they would fuck us up if they had the people. But they don't, because they've had 3 civil wars in the last 100 years. You know, they don't have the numbers. But if they didn't have all those civil wars, and if they didn't beat the Nazis, by the way, Russia beat the Nazis in World War II. They were in majority of those fights. We were barely in that battle. Barely. But of course, our propaganda, we beat the Germans against God's chosen people. The Satanists. You know, the Russians beat the Nazis. You know, we might have ran in and threw a punch or two, but we weren't in that fight. Okay, and our veterans are fucking idiots. Okay, I've you know, there's something wrong with our veterans. There's something wrong with our military. And I would absolutely move out of this country if I financially could. I would disconnect and discontinue supporting and acknowledging this country's existence. Absolutely. Because it's done nothing but given everybody post-traumatic stress. It's shameful, the fact that people are working 50 hours a week and don't even have money for food or anything. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. It's demoralizing. And celebrities and influencers are stupid. They're so far fucking gone. They don't even know up and down. Part of the alternate reality, you know. The country, you're basically, when you have a job, you're basically going to work so you have enough money to continue to slave away. And these people that own these companies, I mean, they're so far gone in their stupid fucking hyped up demonic charged. I mean, they're not even fucking real either. They're not even fucking human. They're fucking walking around smiling and shit, all goofy like a bunch of fucking clowns. I won't pay any corporations. I won't pay anybody money for anything. I won't support anything, and I won't pay for anything, and I'm not even fucking glad to be here. And there's nothing to be grateful for. And the thing is these people are like, well, be grateful you have a car. You know, they play that whole game. Be grateful you have a job. A lot of people don't. And they play the whole 95% of people live check to check. No. I would say about 40% of the people are living paycheck to paycheck, and about 60% of Americans have plenty of money and have more than enough. And if you're part of that 40%, you're just part of the dumb fucking group. And they'd say, oh, well, hey, 95% of people live paycheck to paycheck. Be grateful you even have a job and you even have a car. They just tell the stupid 40% of people that, so they keep doing all their work and they keep taxing them and keep fucking with them, basically. So I'm not going to work a job just so I could work a job. It's pointless. It's a slave system. So I've talked for about an hour on the alternate reality. Started off with a little background of you know where I came from and stuff. So 1 hour and 5 minutes. So I think I'm gonna wrap this up. It will be up. You can watch it from the beginning. Basically told everybody that I'm not fucking paying taxes, and I don't care what kind of narrative. You know, the government's gonna paint you as a fucking terrorist. If you're, but I don't give a fuck because nobody fucking respects them anyways. Nobody gives a shit. Nobody watches the news. Everything's social platforms anyways. How are you gonna fucking slander people when no one watches your stupid ass news stations? How the fuck are you gonna slander people? Nobody even watches news anymore. It's all social platforms. It's all YouTube, you know? And the fucking influencers are too stupid to make sense out of anything anyways. So basically the narrative and the alternate reality the government created, it failed. And we're either going to get taken over by another country soon, or we're going to become Eastern Orthodox. And if half of the nation becomes Eastern Orthodox, what started in Russia will end in America. If half of the country becomes Eastern Orthodox, they're just going to, the psychotic Satanist elites are going to fucking kill all the Orthodox Christians because they fucking hate God. Because they're fucking convinced that they're going to live on other planets because they're fucking crazy. They're crazy people. They're... They're literally crazy people. And they don't have enough fucking helicopters to harass everybody. You know, they make their rounds, bother someone for a few days and go to the next person. You fucking people you're not going to have money or resources to continue to fuck with people. It's you don't have the ability to continue to fuck with people. You don't have enough resources. So you're using tech. You're trying to create an alternate reality. What are you going to do? Create fucking AI newscasters and fucking plug everybody in for 3 hours a day and make sure they get a dose of your fucking bullshit? So you don't want to go attack people that work for the government. You don't want to do that. Because a lot of these people, they just want a $20 an hour job because they're too fucking stupid to take care of themselves. They're just as codependent as you are. But what you can do is how you fight against and discontinue the support of the American government is stop paying fucking taxes, stop watching the news, stop buying anything with processed sugar in it, and stop going along with the fucking program and start making shit difficult for them. Make them feel uncomfortable. Make these fuckers, the government, feel uncomfortable in their fucking position. Because that's what they've done to you. You work to work. You're working to pay them to live these satanic bullshit Epstein file fucking lives. And they're just trying to climb the ladder, you know, and stop helping them on that journey. Watch where your money's going. Where is your money going? You're just buying shit and you don't even know where the fucking money's going. And 90% of the shit people buy, they don't even need. You're miserable. So there's one way to discontinue this ritual abuse from this satanic government, which what it is, and it's just stop acknowledging their existence and stop financially supporting them. And if you really want to fucking piss them off, become Eastern Orthodox because they hate God. That's what this all comes down to. They fucking hate God. That's their main thing. They hate God. So the more people that become Eastern Orthodox, it's going to drive them insane because they're psychos. They're psychopaths. They're ugly people and they're aggressive. The spirit of Antichrist comes by force. So good news though. Being Eastern Orthodox, you definitely have protection versus if you're just an anarchist. You know, if you fuck with the Eastern Orthodox Church, we'll fucking kill your ass. Probably not us, but something's gonna fucking kill you. You know, if you fuck with the Eastern Orthodox Church, you'll die. And they've probably already experienced that a few times, and they're too fucking stupid to figure it out. So just discontinue support of the American government. These people are fucking evil, and let them be sad. Let them be fucking alone and sad. Okay. God bless you guys. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Have a good night.